Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Keep in mind, since this is a psychology YouTube channel, we might get into some triggering material. I usually will try to provide a trigger warning when I think I'm about to talk about something that would be commonly triggering, but there's a lot of potential trauma triggers, and you should know what yours are and be able to take care of yourself. Talk with your therapist, obviously, as well. But, just a little general warning. Let's watch.
It's just like the fact that I thought I had a conversation that was like personal and intimate, and it was not, kind of fucked me up. He was literally like, you want the proposal at the end of the day, then just leave right now.
Are you not feeling me or you are? Because what you just told me has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, well, so on one hand, I'm sort of in her world because we've been watching her so much. So I was kind of hoping he would have a different response. But if I think about it, yeah, he is basically saying that he wants to be with AD or nobody, I think is what he was saying. Or at the very least, I think AD is at the top of his list. And then she comes in and is, they edited it, but so on one hand, he's getting jealous and reactive because he's vulnerable and hurt, and he's reacting, and he's using an old defense of his to get tough or something, or to protect himself. Or she is swimming in all that is happening with Matthew. And she's not talking about all this stuff with other women. Well, she was talking with one woman we saw, but I don't think she's talking very much. And if she went back to the lounge, that other woman might not have been there. She has to, you would imagine, talk about it with somebody. And so she considers Clay to be a friend at the very least. And so she naturally starts to process it maybe a little too much. And from his perspective, like if she said, I had this thing happen, which made me realize I want to be with you, I'm pretty sure, or made me realize I need to put you further up on the list, and I had this weird experience with this other guy. But even then, right, because the way she's talking about it, she is, yeah. On one hand, if she said, yeah, this thing happened and it was hard and I started having feeling for this guy, but then I realized he's horrible. Like, she's not saying that. She's saying she's still in the dilemma, which, yeah, from Clay's perspective, he's like, well, what? Why am I hearing this? What am I supposed to say here? Am I supposed to tell you everything's going to be okay and that I'm sure he's a good person? Well, why am I hearing this? Or is he being jealous? I don't know.
Well, what love triangle am I in? We could have that transparent convo.
It's me and you and Matthew.
Matthew? Oh my fucking God.
That's funny. Yeah. Who knows how far? I would imagine they're probably in that sort of second phase of the pods where people are starting to kind of commit before they actually do commit. And so he's had a lot of experience with these other guys. They spent a lot of time together in the lounge. I think in all likelihood they travel to the hotel together and back. They stay at the hotel together, but I don't think they interact with anybody at the hotel. There's a lot of bonding. There's a lot of at least getting to know each other. And so for the fact that he's like Matthew, that points to the way it's edited that Matthew is a loner. And then he realizes who it is. And I'm really curious as to what he's going to say here, because this might be the first time we're going to hear someone actually speak potentially a little bit more objectively about his personality. So let's hear.
Saying the right things to you, we not having the right conversations. I really can't even fathom.
What? Am I not allowed to contemplate? Am I not allowed to have a moment?
Like, you like me, but you don't like me like that. You're trying to
like you like...
Yeah. I think he's reacting. He's feeling insecure, and he's resorting to a defense of pushing her away. It's totally normal that he would feel threatened, that he would be hurt, that he would be worried, but that's part of the gig. And as far as the edit has gone, she, AD, has not said anything otherwise to Clay. She hasn't said, I mean, I don't think she's been forthcoming that there are others, but she wasn't saying that Clay was the one. It's hard to know what the ethics would be in a situation like that. At what point do you need to tell the person that you suspect might have you at the top of their list that they might not be at the top of your list, or at the very least there are other people that might be at the top of you? Like, when are you supposed to tell? So you could make some arguments that maybe there is a bit of leading on, but I don't know. It's hard to lock down what the ethics are. What I'm getting at is that he's hurt and he's resorting to. Now, maybe for AD, this will help her to look at the situation, because the way it's edited, at the very least, she shouldn't be with Matthew. I don't know if she should be with Clay. Well, we'll see what happens.
That.
AD, I'm telling you, it's not seeming like that, girl. Like,
it's not that I don't like you like that. I had a stronger connection, and maybe it was just stronger in my head.
Yeah, and then for Clay, he would wonder, him? Like, you're connecting with him? What does it say about you? I think they edited out him talking about Matthew because it looked like he was going to start Matthew. Maybe that didn't happen, but it seemed like it was about to happen. I don't know. Maybe that'll happen, because I'm curious. I'm curious what the guys would say about Matthew. And we saw that little interaction with Jeremy, but it was hard to gauge what was happening there.
Really, it's like my ego is like fucking with me so hard, but I'm really trying to be very understanding and work with you on this. It doesn't make me feel good. So if you care, I really need you to think about this. Hopefully I see you tomorrow and we could talk about it.
That is fantastic, what he just did. He recovered, he differentiated, he took a beat, he's even closing his eyes, and he's sifting through it in a very, just imagine you fall in love with someone, or you're close to wanting to commit, and then you learn not only is the love of your life potentially involves someone else, but was maybe choosing him over you, and it's Matthew. That's a lot to deal with. But that was great. Let's rewind this, because this is classic differentiation.
My ego is like fucking with me so hard, but I'm really trying to be very understanding and work with you on this. It doesn't make me feel good. So if you care, I really need you to think about this. Hopefully I see you tomorrow and we could talk about it. If not, I get it, and we'll reconvene,
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's more he could say, like, a big part of me wants to be with you, but I'm worried I'm going to get hurt, something like that. Or I have an impulse to run away or get angry at you or something, which isn't okay. I want to be clear, but I'm just telling you that might be revealed. There might be a tone of that in my language right now. So I'm trying to not engage in that defense or whatever. There's other things you could have added, but that was great. We don't usually see this kind of differentiation on reality TV, so that was good.
All right. Sorry that I couldn't give you what you needed.
That's all you got?
Yeah, that's all you got. It's like some empathy from. I mean, I get it. If you're AD, you're just like, whoa, but a little bit of empathy, like, well, okay, he likes me. Clay really likes me, and I'm now venting to him about a conundrum that I'm having with Matthew. That's going to be tough for anybody. And he's, the way he's reacting right now, and he's not just blowing out of the pods. He's saying, my ego's getting to me, meaning that I'm engaging in that defense of puffing myself up and saying I don't need her, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that's what he was referring to. And I'm not going to let that happen. And so if you care about me, you'll help me out with a little bit with this. And so, she could say something like, well, Clay, I don't appreciate the kind of tone that you had earlier. I think it's normal that I'm having this situation, and I understand that it would be hurtful or worrisome that what I told you, but I do like you, and I do want to continue to see about you and me. Or does AD just not really like Clay and either stopped liking him before or never really liked him, or is there something going on with AD that makes her more susceptible to a Matthew? I mean, it's certainly looking that way. But I don't know what a Matthew is at this point. There are some signs, like there's a lot of data pointing in some directions, but I don't know what I'm seeing.
I don't know what you want me to say. Are you looking for an apology?
No, I'm not.
What are you looking for?
I don't know. Maybe you telling me that you care and you would want to see me tomorrow. I don't.
Awesome. He's even more differentiated now. He's more regulated. And then she asks a good question. I think it's intuitive, you know. What do you want me to say? You know, when people say that in scenarios like this, it usually, to me, seems to point to either the person has a hard time empathizing, or they're not oriented towards the things that would motivate them to actually reach out, right? If she loved him and wanted to be with Clay, then you would just think she would say something different, even if she thought that he was being unfair, which he was to some extent. But even with that, you just think that she'd be, well, I don't want to, you know, there'd be a little bit of desperation of like, oh no, like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, not like groveling or anything from her, but something like, oh, well, okay, what's going on? Or, you know, I want to tell you that I still, you know, you're still near the top, or, you know, you're in the short list. I'm still considering you as my number one. If that were true, you would just think she would say that at some point. Maybe it was edited out, didn't look like it was there. And then I'm thinking, that's going to sting when what do you want me to say? I don't know what to say. And I thought that was going to hurt him more, and it was going to really push him over the edge. But he's even more differentiated. He's sitting down.
Are you looking for an apology?
No, I'm not.
What are you looking for?
I don't know. Maybe you telling me that you care and you would want to see me tomorrow. I don't know. Some type of reassurance like I gave
Clay,
you. Some,
please,
I don't know.
listen to me.
Yeah.
I do care.
Okay, this is good. And this does indicate that what I was saying earlier, that she's raw. She just came, yeah, it's got to be weird, right? You're basically, and maybe she is, whatever feeling she has for Clay and Matthew, let's just call it early love, which is an intense feeling, and the concentratedness of it, and the fact that she can't consult with any of her support system. You know, she is in the thick of it, and she just came out of the Matthew thing, swimming in it, sits down, starts talking about, and it's causing her to not pay attention to certain things that she would otherwise. So, you know, this is good. And it was great that he laid it out. Hey, I just thought, you know, maybe some reassurance. It's just so healthy. And it worked, right? If the two of them have potential, which now it sounds like they still do, him being vulnerable is the key to happiness, which I want to tell you. It is nearly all the time in any conflict, whether it's with the cash register or your spouse or your boss or your teacher or your parents, unless you're dealing with a psychopath, which does happen, but even then it doesn't hurt to be vulnerable. But aside from those people, the 99% of people you're going to interact with, when you are vulnerable and not defensive, then it provokes empathy from the other person. It also can calm them down because you're not rejecting them or criticizing them or deflecting or something. You're just laying it on the line. Well, I'm looking for some reassurance. I want some reassurance. I would like some reassurance. Do you have any reassurance? He's really hanging himself out to dry there. And it could have gone horribly wrong. It kind of looked like it was going to go horribly wrong, and yet he took that leap. Because if there's a road to what he wants, which is to connect with her, it's through vulnerability. Hey, spouse of mine, that thing you did yesterday, it hurt my feelings. I don't know if it's just me, I'm sensitive or something. It wasn't a huge deal, but it kind of hurt my feelings. I'm sure you didn't mean to, kind of hurt my feelings. Or, hey, I'm feeling distant and I don't like that feeling. I want to be close to you. I miss you. Vulnerability. Instead of, you're so distant lately or whatever, right? Or just rejecting in kind, like, well, I'll be distant too. Those defensive, non-vulnerable, non-authentic responses and tactics are a road to loneliness and sadness and all the bad things in life. Meaninglessness, disconnection, being susceptible to a cult, all sorts of bad things. Drug abuse, all sorts of bad things.
And I came in here raw. I could have put on my little voice and just like gave you what you needed, but I didn't have that. And so
Yeah, I don't think it's a binary. It's not giving what he needs. It could just be being more broadly authentic of, this is where I'm at with this thing that just happened, and I care about you, and I'm asking you as a friend at the very least for some reassurance, or just a port in the storm, or an island in the ocean to hold on to, because I feel like I'm losing my mind with this other person. Okay, it's not just, well, I have to put on. That's interesting you said it. I could have put on my nice voice, but I couldn't. I'm raw. I need to be real. And I think there's a third option, which is absolutely be raw and be real and tend to yourself, and just have a 10% awareness of his feelings.
I apologize if you think I came at you aggressive with this. I apologize that this really threw me off. At the end of the day, listen, I don't want you going to bed distraught. I'm rocking with you. We're good.
I know.
I understand this process.
Sorry.
I'm with you. Listen, I'm with you. I still want to make this work with you.
That's really sweet. It just brings a tear to the eye, really. So that's good, because if Matthew is problematic in any of the ways that we might speculate, AD needs something else to hold on to. Now, what I hope she does is talks with one of her friends in the lounge. There's a lot to process. There's a lot to think about, and she's going through an emotional thing. But the way it kind of looked was that she was presenting as kind of standoffish in the lounge, which would really be isolating for her because they don't have their phones. So I really hope she can talk to somebody. And as you might have seen in the article I posted on social media, that I was interviewed for an article in Time magazine. I don't know if we call it Time magazine, but time.com, regarding this show. And in that interview, I advocated for a lot of things. I don't remember what they included in the actual article, but of course, having therapists not, the thing that I am advocating for is that at some point, whether it was season 1 or at some later point, they started to work into the contract or into the services available to the cast is therapy. And they will say that, look, we have 2 psychologists or 2 clinicians on staff ready to go. And that's great. It's better than nothing. But we hear stories of people suffering who don't use those services. They're even maybe offered. Like, I think, at least from my memory, the story of Danielle and Nick from season 2, I believe. If you remember, Danielle, that first night of the honey or the getaway thing, she had a tough time. And then Nick went off to the party, and when Nick got back, Danielle was really not having an okay time. And then I heard from Nick later. Right, his name is Nick, right? I've talked to him. Yeah, Nick Thompson. He advocates. He's really great. He's advocating online a lot for the ethical treatment of cast members on the show and in reality TV in general, which I think is absolutely important. And of course, the corporations, the production company they don't want to be beholden to those measures because it'll drive up costs and it'll make it harder to manipulate the cast members. I mean, I don't know if they're that, especially this show, I don't know if they're that interested in manipulating the cast, but at the very least it would reduce profits, which of course, that's what they're doing this for, is for profit. So they don't want that. I don't know how much they don't want it. But anyway, one of the things that I'm advocating for, and others, is that they should be unionized. All reality TV cast should be unionized, and that will give them leverage to negotiate for better working conditions. At this point, we don't have that, so each individual cast member has to advocate for themselves, and it's one person against a giant corporation. That doesn't work. We understand why we need unions. Hollywood doesn't have nearly the problems that reality TV does because they're in a union and have been for many, many years. So that's one thing. The other thing is that with therapists, it's one thing to have a therapist available. It's another thing for the cast to know the therapist. So what I would recommend is that there's a mandatory get to know each other meeting. Maybe it's just 15 minutes, maybe it's an hour or something, where each cast member meets with the staff or the contracted clinicians, and that those contracted clinicians are the ones that will not only be available through the span of the shooting of the show, but will be available ongoing, maybe even when the show is aired a year later, so that the cast member, at the very least, if they don't have other options, because they might be in therapy anyway, but if they don't have other options, but even if they are in therapy, they don't have access to their therapist because they take the phones away during the pods and during the getaway. So, and that's a problem too. It seems like, but I do think that I've heard that production will let them obviously talk to a physician or their therapist, so they'll give them their phone or give them another phone anyway. So anyway, my point is that, like with Danielle and Nick, I'm guessing that if Danielle had a little bit more trust and rapport with the therapist, however brief, in that moment, she might have been more likely to actually reach out to that therapist or take them up on the offer. But when you're in the depths of pain and you're just falling apart, and they say, "Remember those therapists we said that, or we introduced you with a handshake? What about talking to them?" You just feel like I'm in no shape to meet someone that I don't know and don't trust, right? So having a little bit more trust, I think, would help. The other thing that I advocated for, that I believe they did put in the article, is that similar to sex scenes in Hollywood, how I believe the unions fought for this and got the production companies to pay for it, because again, this is all profit. They have on-set advocates. I can't remember the name, like sex scene advisor or something. It's an outside contracted individual that has a lot of power and will be there as an advocate for the actors as they go through the filming of a sex scene or a nude scene or something. And there's a whole protocol where they meet with, I don't know the protocol, but I imagine they meet with the team that, what's the scene going to involve? They go to the actor, they go over what they're about to get into. There's a lot of asking, are you sure you want to do this? How do you feel? Then that advocate is right there on set, sometimes just right off camera. When they stop filming for a second, check in, how we doing? You sure? Because we could take a break. No big deal. And when you have someone that has power and know-how, right? Because the advocate, the expert, knows the landscape. If you're an 18-year-old actor and you've never been in a sex scene before, you have no idea. It could be your first film. You have no idea what you're getting into. And you don't have any power. You don't know how to ask. You don't know if you're going to get fired or something if you raise your hand, say, I don't feel comfortable with this. And there have been many, many stories of exploitation, particularly of women, but really everyone of every gender in Hollywood, because the powers that be hold all the cards. But if you have an advocate there that can say, like if an advocate went to the actor and said, how you doing? And the actor just kind of had a deer in headlights sort of look, I'm guessing that the advocate would say, we're shutting it down. Get off her, and everyone, okay, I'm just going to take a guess. So, because if you have someone there, they can notice things. Or you might, as an actor, be like, yeah, I think this is okay. But the advocate is like, no, this isn't okay. No. this could hurt you and you don't even know because you don't know. So the same would go for reality TV. You would have an advocate, and you could have one on the guy side, one on the women's side, who would monitor these situations, and they have power. So they could even step in and say, this is going too far. You've asked too many questions of this person, or this person needs to be able to call their mom, or this person needs to be able to go back to the hotel, or this person needs to take a break, take a breather. And the cast member might not know because, this is their first time on a reality TV show. They don't know the landscape. It's all brand new. They're going through a very emotional situation. And there's a possibility that the production crew, although my impression is many of them do care, they're not sleazy, horrible human beings. They're human beings working at their work. And from the production people that I've talked to, at least whenever I talk about talking to the crew, there's always some people that will say that, well, obviously they're lying to Kirk and trying to manipulate me. I suppose that's true. But that sort of suggests that every human being, that literally thousands of humans that work on Love is Blind alone, or at least hundreds, like in the warehouse where they're filming the pods, there are hundreds of employees. Somehow we're supposed to believe that all of them are nefarious and horrible humans. Yeah, it's not likely. Now, can a lot of good people do horrible things to cast members? Yeah, that's normally how it works because of capitalism and of the powers that be and incentives and anything. And along those lines, if you are a good person and you're working in reality TV, and like right now, let's just say, for example, that what would be best for AD is that she were able to get her phone back and call her mom. Let's just say that that's kind of like the most safest, best thing to do. Because the advocate would notice that, well, AD hasn't really been connecting with the other women, and AD's kind of reserved, and AD has a concern about revealing her emotions with the competition, with the other woman that is going after Matthew, Amber. I'm looking at my notes. And so we can't really bank on the possibility that she's going to be able to vent with anyone and get support. And I've seen her before. She tends to shut down. She can't shut down right now. She needs to talk to someone that will be on her side. So, and AD might not even raise her hand to say, can I talk to my mom? And the advocate would say, hey, how you doing? I'm fine. I really don't think you're doing okay. And so what do you think about I get your phone back and you can call one person for an hour? How does that feel? That'd feel great. Okay. Like an advocate would be able to do that. The production might also have that notion, but if they're not in power, they might not feel they're able to suggest that. Also, if your production, since your bottom line is capitalism and making money, and you see this as a money-making scene where meltdowns actually sell tickets to the show, so to speak, then even though you have a heart, you have a capitalistic incentive to deny that and to say, well, she'll be okay. People do this all the time. All of us do this. When there's an incentive, whether it's money or some other incentive, we will overlook things. Our brain has ways of justifying things and denying things. So an advocate would be needed as well. Maybe the advocate even needs to say, hey, why don't you talk to a therapist? I don't know. I've never met that person. And the advocate says, believe me, I know those therapists well. They're in fact, one of them I think would be really great for you. She's really, really nice. She's really, really nice. I think you should talk to her. How about that? Those kinds of things. Like the things that Nick was complaining about when they went on the getaway and they weren't giving him any food or water when they first got there. An advocate would be able to see that right away and put the kibosh on that, right? And say like, no. And if the advocate had power and if the cast were unionized, then that shit would never happen. You would never have a situation where you had the talent not getting enough food or water. and being stuck without their wallet and phone. That just, it's too much power to the capitalists and the marketers. It's not okay. It's the same when it comes to labor. You know, there are laws. Your boss cannot work you 80 hours a week. Why? Because unions and laws. We need laws and unions and advocates. The labor needs power. Now, I don't know. Maybe 80 is fine. Why was I talking about that? I was talking about therapy. I don't know. Tangent. All right. Well, let's adjourn there. By the way, when I'm browsing on YouTube, I usually go to the home page, right? But lately I figured out that I could go to the subscriptions page and see videos of the channels I subscribe to. And sometimes I come across videos that wasn't given to me by the algorithm on the homepage. And I wonder if some of you might not be getting some of my videos if you're looking at the homepage and not the subscription page. I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there as a little tip, a little YouTube tip. And tune in next time when I continue watching. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.